World Menopause Day is held every year on 18th October with the purpose to raise awareness worldwide for all those women who face multiple health issues when approaching menopause. Though the changes and challenges in women's body around and during menopause are not as simple or easy to deal with as widely believed in a society, and considered very trivial issue and taken for granted most of the time. We are feeling very excited as we are joined by Clarissa Kristjansson. Well-known name across the world to raise awareness towards menopause and related issues. She is a menopause transition expert who helps women regaining confidence, feeling better, and getting vitality through her guidance. So over to Clarissa.
Well, welcome to these questions that Rajni has placed for me. So for those of you that haven't met me, I'm Clarissa Kristjansson. I am a menopause transition specialist, and I help women go through this time of life from a mind-body perspective and be able not only to manage our symptoms, but to have more confidence, vitality, and set ourselves up for the best next third of our life. So Rajni, you posed some really great questions to me. The first question that you gave me was, at different ages, we go through different levels of various emotions. How can we be mentally unaffected by those? Well, that's a great question. How can we be mentally unaffected by our emotions? Well, I think we're always affected by our emotions, but not always in a way that's negative. We do have very strong emotions because of our changing hormones as women, not just in the menopause, but actually we're constantly in sort of like a state of flux and change in our lives. We have puberty, we go through a 28-day hormonal cycle, which many of us know can be a bit of an up and down emotion. We have pregnancy, and then we have the menopause. So we have changing hormone status where our estrogen and progesterone levels fluctuate. And so how do we cope with the emotions that come with those and the reasons why we need to do certain things? Remember that estrogen is a hormone that is highly connected to our happiness hormones, and serotonins and other endorphins. So when it dips, yeah, we feel it and we can feel quite low. The thing about that is that we can choose how we relate to our emotions. So we're not mentally unaffected, but we choose to how we respond. And that's a big part of building emotional resilience, so that when we have days when our emotions are low, we bring mindfulness, kindness, and compassion to that. We respond with warmth and even gratitude, it sounds crazy, to our emotions rather than reacting towards them. And that requires us to practice mindfulness, to be aware of our thoughts, and also to practice compassion practices like putting our hands on our hearts and saying, you know, it's okay right now not to feel okay. This is a strong emotion. I am going to meet this emotion without judgment or criticizing myself. I am just going to meet it. And in that way, we take a lot of the power out of some of our strong emotions and we allow them to be there, observing them, and then letting them go. So that's how I would answer your first question, Rajni, and I hope that was there. The second question you asked me was about some of our physical symptoms and can we manage those with our minds? So there are lots of physical symptoms of the menopause, and we're aware of some of them quite well, like hot flushes. And there certainly is quite a bit of evidence from research that has been done over the years on particularly that kind of a symptom like a hot flash or a night sweat, and the role that the mind plays in that. So I'd answer this question in two parts. The first is, yes, the more we know, the more awareness we have, the more understanding that we have about our symptoms, that actually allows us to meet our experience with openness and with less negativity. What we do know is that the less we understand about our symptoms, the more the mind can build a story, and we experience that symptom with greater intensity. What we've also seen is that actually practicing simple mindfulness practices like mindful breathing, we can actually dial down the intensity of many common physical symptoms. So work has been done recently through the Mayo Clinic, which is obviously a significant medical institute in the US. I think it was the back end of 2018, early 2019. A study with several thousand women was undertaken that they did an intervention over a 6 or 8 week period with mindful breathing. And what they saw was that women not only had less hot flashes, but the intensity of that symptom was dialed down. So using very simple breathing exercises, focusing on the breath, will dial down. And Rajni's final question was, various studies have revealed that women are more prone to psychiatric disorders, and that also there are a number of psychological areas around the menopause, like mood springs, and how can we help to manage those? Well, that's kind of in two parts, because what we know is that on the whole, most women don't have a psychiatric issue because of their menopause. However, if you have had a history of anxiety or depression that has needed clinical treatment prior to menopause, there is a great possibility that you can experience those kinds of psychiatric issues again when you go through this life change. In those instances, women need support from qualified psychotherapists and maybe medication to assist them. But a lot of the time, for the majority of women, and we know that that's true, we will experience psychological impacts of the menopause that affect the quality of our life. So we can go through mood swings, anxiety, brain fog, and a sense of just being exhausted. And that we know that about 80% of women will say that really impacts me, and pretty much 80% will say it impacts the quality of my life. So what can we do? Well, in those instances, don't reach for medication. I know that a lot of doctors want to give you antidepressants and anti-anxiety, but we really don't benefit from those. They can leave us feeling very foggy, and we can manage those things both by intervening with things that lift our mood. So that can be trying to get as much rest as we can. Focusing on practices like yoga, meditation, mindfulness meditation, and other forms of meditation, where we are deliberately carving out time to pause and reflect. And using our breath at any time during the day, stopping, checking in with ourselves, help to manage our minds. Also, because we can feel very irritated or very low, then I like to think that we can also use practices like gratitude practices and turning towards the positive. So training our brains to look for positive things, even though our total experience may still be challenging. When we do that and we let in the good, and it might sound a bit like woo, but yes, letting in the good, focusing on the good things helps our brain to not be as reactive to our negative experiences. So those are my answers, and I hope that they've answered those questions for you, Rajni, and for the people who are going to view this. We have the power of our minds. We can, by coming into the present, manage our symptoms, unless we have a very significant issue, and then we need intervention. But remember, menopause is a journey. It's not a disease. And we can use different strategies, including our minds, but also exercise and diet and getting sufficient sleep to actually thrive through this time.
Clarissa, thank you so much for being with us, guiding us, sharing your immense knowledge. We are very grateful to you. Thank you so much once again. Thank you guys for watching.